Top 10 inventors who lived in total isolation. Throughout history, some inventors have chosen a life of solitude, dedicating themselves entirely to their work. These brilliant minds often worked in isolation, driven by their desire to create, experiment, and discover without the distractions or influence of the outside world. Here's a list of 10 inventors who lived in total isolation, changing the world from their secluded environments. 1. Nikola Tesla. Nikola Tesla, one of the most influential inventors in history, lived much of his life in isolation. He was known for his eccentric behavior and intense focus on his work. Tesla lived in hotels for long periods, choosing solitary environments where he could avoid distractions. He invented groundbreaking technologies, such as alternating current, AC, and the Tesla coil, largely in seclusion. His later years were marked by financial struggles and a retreat from public life, making him one of the most iconic recluses in the history of innovation. 2. Howard Hughes. Howard Hughes, a billionaire, aviation pioneer, and inventor, spent the later years of his life in total isolation. After a successful career in aviation and film, Hughes became a notorious recluse. He lived in hotel suites for extended periods, avoiding contact with others and even developing obsessive-compulsive behaviors. Despite his eccentricities, he made significant contributions to the aviation industry, including designing innovative aircraft like the H-4 Spruce Goose. Hughes' isolation led to the creation of several groundbreaking technologies, but his personal life became an enigma. 3. Gregor Mendel. Known as the father of genetics, Gregor Mendel spent most of his life in a monastery, conducting experiments on pea plants in relative isolation. His groundbreaking discoveries about heredity and the principles of genetic inheritance went largely unnoticed during his lifetime. Mendel's solitary life as a monk allowed him to focus entirely on his scientific work, which laid the foundation for modern genetics, although it wasn't until decades after his death that the importance of his research was fully recognized. 4. Blaize Pascal. Blaize Pascal, the French mathematician and inventor, lived much of his life in seclusion, focusing on his philosophical and scientific work. He was known for inventing the Pascaline, one of the first mechanical calculators, as well as his contributions to the study of fluid mechanics and the pressure of gases. After a profound religious experience, Pascal withdrew from scientific circles and dedicated himself to theology, living a life of solitude. His work continues to influence both mathematics and physics to this day. 5. Edwin H Armstrong. Edwin H Armstrong, a pioneer of radio technology, is credited with developing the FM, frequency modulation, radio system. He spent much of his career working in isolation, often in his private laboratory. Despite facing resistance from commercial interests and the lack of support, Armstrong persevered in his work. He suffered from personal and professional isolation and was deeply frustrated by the failure of his inventions to achieve widespread recognition during his lifetime. 6. John Walker. John Walker, an English chemist and inventor, is best known for inventing the match in 1827. Walker's invention came about during a period of personal isolation as he worked alone in his laboratory. He spent much of his time experimenting with various chemical compounds and eventually stumbled upon the right combination that led to the creation of the friction match. Despite the importance of his invention, Walker was a private man and remained largely out of the public eye, never seeking fame for his work. 7. Henry David Thoreau. While Thoreau is better known for his writings, particularly Walden, his life in isolation also involved significant invention and innovation. Thoreau spent 2 years living alone in a small cabin he built by Walden Pond, where he focused on self-sufficiency, studying nature, and experimenting with new ways of living. During this period, he made significant contributions to the philosophy of transcendentalism and the concept of civil disobedience, all while living an isolated life in the woods. 8. Antoan Lavoisier. Antoine Lavoisier, the father of modern chemistry, is known for his groundbreaking work on the law of conservation of mass and the development of the first modern theory of combustion. Although he was an active member of scientific communities, Lavoisier often worked alone in his lab, conducting meticulous experiments that led to the identification of oxygen and the development of the periodic table. His solitary work, coupled with his obsession for precision, contributed significantly to his major scientific contributions. 9. Conrad Zeus. Conrad Zeus, a German civil engineer and inventor, is considered the father of the modern computer. He built the first programmable computer, the Z3, in his bedroom during World War II. Zeus worked in isolation, keeping his inventions a secret for fear of theft or interference from the war. His early computers were built with limited resources, and he spent much of his time alone, experimenting with different materials and designs, eventually changing the course of computing history. 10. James Clerk Maxwell. James Clerk Maxwell, a Scottish physicist known for formulating the theory of electromagnetism, often worked in isolation due to his reserved nature. Although he was part of the intellectual circles in Europe, Maxwell spent long periods in solitude, working on his groundbreaking equations that describe electromagnetism. His research laid the foundation for much of modern physics, and Maxwell's ability to work quietly and independently contributed significantly to the development of theoretical physics. These inventors, each in their unique way, showed that isolation can sometimes breed the most extraordinary ideas and inventions. Their dedication to their craft, often away from the limelight, led to innovations that transformed industries, created new fields of science, and changed the world in profound ways.